Hi there, I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark, and we're so glad that you're joining us today for The Honest Talk.
We're excited to be bringing you conversations with some of North America's most inspiring women, and we are thrilled to be partnering with RBC as we do so.
This podcast is about leaving behind the talking points and diving into the real, authentic, and unique personal stories of our guests. Stories which we hope might influence or inspire your own journeys.
So let's get right to it.
So, Jen, today we are going to be talking with a really neat woman named Marcy Grossman. She was Canada's first female Jewish ambassador to the United Arab Emirates. She's had a really interesting career in diplomacy, but that's not where she started. And we're going to get her to talk a little bit about that when we chat with her today. But I'm looking forward to having that conversation with Marcy.
Yeah, I am too. And she'll tell you she started in jail, but it's not the kind of jail you're thinking of. We met her recently in Montreal, and I think we're just both inspired about how she kind of creates her own opportunities. And it's just really frank and honest about the challenges and the tribulations that she's experienced, and also the success. So really excited to chat with Marcy about her path, the pivotal moments, the pressures, and certainly the progress that has been made. Welcome to The Honest Talk, Marcy.
Thank you. It's so amazing to be here. I'm so excited.
Well, when we first got to meet you, actually in Montreal, we were all three of us were speaking at an event, and Jen and I were just so impressed by your presentation of a really remarkable life. And the theme of it was be your own ambassador. And you have had such an interesting career within Canada's diplomatic corps. And you've been representing the country in some of the world's really high-level diplomatic spaces, often male-dominated. Be really interesting to hear from you in terms of what some of the most significant barriers you faced, especially right at the beginning, and how you navigated through them to get to the top.
Great. Thank you. Well, surprise, surprise, that 75% of all careers that women follow are male dominated. So I don't know that being in diplomacy was any real exception. And of course, I did not start my career in diplomacy. I am a criminal psychologist by training. I have a master's degree in criminal psychology, and I began my career in jail. So that was also kind of a tough place for a woman to start a career. But I'd have to say that I was fortunate in that I was part of a generation that was breaking a lot of new barriers, and we were basically crashing glass ceilings and moving together as a cohort as we went through these different jobs. So, for example, when I started in federal corrections back in the day, women were not permitted to work as correctional officers. We were not deemed to be tough enough, strong enough, whatever enough. And that was a barrier that was crashed, during my time, and it allowed for women to enter the workforce more operationally. And now, for example, there's a woman who heads the Department of Corrections, and there's a woman who heads the National Parole Board. So I think, at the time when I entered both corrections and diplomacy, it was a time that barriers had been broken, that women ahead of us had led the way, and a whole cohort of us, came through. And if I look at diplomacy as another example, in 1976, so the cohort that would have come before me, women had to quit their jobs. If they were lucky enough, first of all, to be foreign service officers, they had to quit their job when they got married. Well, why was that? Well, first of all, it was deemed that men, their husbands, would not follow them on diplomatic postings. So we'll just call the whole thing off. And ultimately, it was deemed that, women have problem, balancing two things at the same time, like marriage and work. So that barrier got busted only in 1976, which allowed a whole new cohort of women to walk through the door. So I think I was really fortunate in both those events.
Marcy, how did you go from being in jail, and full disclosure, you weren't actually in jail, you were working in the jail system, just so our listeners are clear, to diplomacy?
Although that would be a juicy element, Marcy.
Well, I do like to tell people they let me out of jail to do this job of diplomacy. But so as I said, I began my career in federal corrections, and that was my first passion. I wanted to be a criminal psychologist from the time I was 16. I studied to be that. I wanted to work in the big house. It was a vision, it was my dream, and I was living my dream. I wanted to save the world one offender at a time. And I loved it. It was my number one passion. But as I got further away from the content of what that job was and into middle management, different opportunities presented themselves to me. And one of them was an executive training program that I was nominated for that allowed me to change my job every year to get exposure to a different federal government department, to have a different management and leadership experience. And at the end of this 5-year program, which it also included some education models, the goal was that I would graduate to the executive cadre. So I left corrections, not really knowing, where I was going to end up. Probably I was going to come back to corrections, and I started going out. I went to the Treasury Board, I went to Industry Canada, and I had always wanted to do something international in that fifth and final assignment of that program. But when I got to the fifth year, I couldn't navigate it. I knew it was something like help Kosovo, rebuild criminal justice system, or go to Bosnia, or something like that. But I just could not convert that into a 1-year assignment for the program. So I basically just surrendered to the universe and to the job market. And the next opportunity I had was a woman who called me and invited me to do a 1-year stage, basically, at Investment Partnerships Canada. It was a small, tiny unit within the government. I had no idea what Investment Partnerships Canada was. I just, she mentioned something about international, and I was like, fine, I will take it. Well, sure enough, when I got there, it was a tiny unit co-managed by Industry Canada and the Department of Foreign Affairs. And that's when I realized, OMG, I am in the Department of Foreign Affairs. And that's when I also realized I am never going back to jail.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And I converted that 1-year assignment into a 22-year foreign service career where I was posted 4 times in the United States, twice in the UAE, and culminating in becoming Canada's ambassador to the UAE. So I was an accidental ambassador.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool professional trajectory. And Jen, I completely interrupted your question about jail because I was just kind of fascinated with how you go from, it would have been kind of funny if that were part of your professional description, Marcy, although we're kind of glad for you that it's not. But Jen, did you have a follow-on there that I won't interrupt?
It's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to talk. One thing that struck me when we saw you speak in Montreal, and you were just fabulous, was you talked about a period between going into diplomacy where you experienced burnout.
Yes.
And you did something where, you weren't the top of your class, you weren't the peak performer, and typically
Right.
that's where you live. And I think so many women talk about burnout as something that happens, but they don't actually relate it to themselves enough, or they're not
Right.
honest enough to be
Right.
really frank about it. Can you talk to
Right.
us about that experience and how you took care of yourself and what you adapted so that wouldn't happen again?
Right. So the part I missed out of that radical career transformation story was the several months of what we called in the day nervous breakdown that I had before getting that position. So as I explained, I was on the fast track. I was being prepared and groomed for senior management, and I was working really hard, like most women do every single day. I had 2 children under the age of 5. My husband at the time was an entrepreneur, so I was solo parenting. I was getting up every morning and doing all the things that every woman does: get the kids ready for school, get them on the bus, get them where they need to go, get to work. Do I look okay? Is there any spit on my lapel? Deliver all day. I'm on the fast track, I'm moving at the speed of light, come home, try to have some quality time with my kids, put them to bed, open the briefcase again, finish all the paperwork that I couldn't get finished, and, fall into bed around midnight, rinse and repeat day after day after day. And that was going okay, actually. Or at least I was telling myself that was going okay. But essentially I was actually running on fumes, and I hadn't anticipated that. And it was only until some dramatic event happened that made me realize, that really brought me to my knees, was that I decided in my manic, high performing, ultra human being state that I would take my executive exams 1 year early. I thought, why not? Like I'm in the zone right now. And the executive exams at the time was a 2-day psychological assessment at the Personnel Psychological Assessment Center at the Public Service Commission. Basically, you would have to go in there and you would have to role play for 2 days, a role that they would give you when you got there. It was the head of a national park, for example. And you had people in the room that were rating your behavior. So if you had a staff meeting, an actor would come in, pretend they were a staff member, and then there'd be someone in the corner of the room rating, like, how did you deal with the staff member? Were any blows shared? Like, was there screaming, was there yelling? And it was a really, really intense experience. But I thought I aced it. Like, that was the zone that I was in. I was in like superpower zone. And I just kept going about my business. And about 2 weeks later, the results show up. I was in my office and I said to my boss, hey, my results are here and I'm super amazing. And I'm going to be an executive. And he said, why don't you take the results into your office and open them up? And I was like, okay, whatever. I know I passed. I opened them up and I found out I failed. Like, I not just failed, like I just like destroyed, failed. It was such a blow. It was such a crash. And it wasn't really a big thing. I failed an exam. Like, so what?
Right.
But where I was at that time, where my head was at, where my energy was at, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And it really put me into this state of utter disrepair, depression, anxiety. Like, I literally had to almost be carried out of the office. It was so bad. And I went home and I did not recover from that for 4 months. It took me 4 months to get it together, to get the help that I needed, to get to the root cause of what was causing all of these problems. And that has been a lifelong challenge, is unraveling the why you do certain things. But good enough to get bandaged out there, get back out on the field. And quite honestly, I took that job at Investment Partnerships Canada because I had gone out when I decided I was going to go back to work and do that 5th assignment. I did not have the strength to create anything international. I was like barely getting out of bed. And I took the next friendliest voice that called me on the phone. And that's why I took her job. She legitimately sounded like a really kind person. And that's really all I needed at that point. And then I went back to work, 4 days a week because I said, I can't do it all. I can't manage all of this. And back in the day, when you were working 4 days a week, you were like failure material. Like,
Right.
they're like, you cannot be on the fast track and work 4 days a week. And I was like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong about that. But
Marcy,
yes,
I
sorry.
love that story. No, I love the courage of you being so open about sharing that, because I would be willing to bet that a lot more women have gone through that than may admit, because they're worried about what people might say or the effect on their career.
Right.
And I really love that you are so open about sharing it. Now, wonder what advice you have for those women who may be going through something similar or have experienced something similar. What did you learn about yourself? And
Right.
what do you tell these other women so that they can cope too?
Right. Well, a few different things. First of all, here's an advice I would give to parents, because it's too late once you're an adult, is let your kids fail often and fail early, because failure is a muscle and it's great to fail because you're always learning when you fail. I did not fail a lot as a kid. I must have let some charm to existence, and I did not have a big failure until I was, I don't know, 30, late 30s, let's just say. It was crushing. It was really crushing. So, but now I don't care. I will try anything and fail because it's a muscle. You fail, you break down, and you break through. And it's amazing because you get to bring all those learnings with you. But when I speak to women now, and this might seem old-fashioned, but I tell them, first of all, there's no job you can't have. Impossible is possible. Women right now can do any job they want. You can be a prime minister, you can go to the moon, you can do anything you want. So don't discount yourselves and don't shortchange yourself because you can do anything. But here's the fix. You can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. It is not possible. I dare you to find the person who has had it all at the same time. And the challenge is that we try to compress our entire 40-year career into a 20-year span between 25 and 45 when we are playing so many roles. And it's not our fault that our best childbearing years are our best earning years. So there's an extra physical pressure on ourselves, especially if we want to have children. But because we have to compress it all, it's a recipe for disaster. And I think the other thing that women don't realize is that if we had to go to our job every day, like piece of cake. I go to work to rest, quite honestly. Like it is my happy place. But women have 90% more caregiving responsibilities than men do, which means we do more housework, we raise children, we care for elder parents, we plan parties, vacations, 90% more work than our partners or our counterparts. That's like having an extra full-time job. So it's a recipe for disaster. So what I tell them,
Marcy.
Sorry, Jennifer.
No, go ahead.
No, just now we have the benefit of longevity. We are living longer lives and our careers are stretching too. So don't compress everything into those 20 years. Stretch it out, make it longer, take your time, live your life, enjoy your children. Believe me, they were going to turn on you eventually. You might as well get those snuggles in now because, you're going to be missing out on things. So
Imagine a world where your small business dreams take flight. MasterCard is making that world a reality. MasterCard empowers small businesses, the heart of local Canadian communities, to grow and thrive in today's digital landscape. From enabling seamless payments online and in-store to robust cybersecurity to protect your hard-earned revenue, MasterCard has the tools you need to succeed. MasterCard believes in supporting the entire small business community with initiatives such as the MasterCard Peer 5 Small Business Fund, which helps women-owned businesses scale and reach their full potential. Because when small business wins, everyone wins. Ready to unlock your business's full potential? Well, MasterCard is here to help you every step of the way. Visit mastercard.ca/small business to learn more.
Just quickly, Marcy, because this had me howling because it's just so accurate. Talk to me, and hopefully you recall this, talk to me about Mommy as a Baby.
It's the most fabulous game in the world. I'm going to patent it. Yeah. So what do you do when you get home from a grueling day of work, you're solo parenting, you got dinner on the table, and you're looking at those beloved children with those big baby blue eyes and those big, huge smiles of adoration. They're probably 2 and 4 at that time. And they want to hang out with you. They want to play with you. And I'm exhausted. So I say, let's play a game. The game is Mommy is a Baby. Mommy is going to lie on the couch and you're going to cover Mommy with blankies and she's going to have a nap. And maybe you can give her a Bonti to drink while she's lying, having her nap. And I would literally fall asleep. Half of me would fall asleep. One eye would be closed and sleeping. The other eye on the toaster just to make sure nobody's cooking while I'm sleeping. And that was quality time. Mommy is a Baby.
It's genius, Marcy. You should come up with little cards of what the tasks the kids should do while Mommy is a baby. I think you've got a great business idea there.
Yes, you can give Mommy a massage, give her kisses,
Change the laundry.
snuggles, do a load of laundry. Yeah.
So how did we get from Mommy is a Baby to the first female Jewish ambassador to the UAE?
Yes.
Because that's a crazy leap and such an impressive leap too.
Thank you. Yes. It was a series of very fortunate events. So I will start. So after Mommy was a baby and she recovered from her nervous breakdown, she went back to work and she was working in Investment Partnerships Canada. And when she found herself at the Department of Foreign Affairs and she was feeling better, she was like, hey, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, how can I translate this into something longer than this 1 year assignment? And there were two pilot projects that were running at the same time in Investment Partnerships Canada is what is now Invest in Canada, which is our foreign direct investment agency. So basically, the whole raison d'etre of that organization was to attract foreign investment from the US in this particular instance to Canada. So get companies, American companies to come and invest in Canada. And there was a pilot project going on in Dallas, Texas. And my husband at the time had always wanted to live in Dallas, Texas. So I just aligned myself with that project because I got to choose my job when I got there. And yeah, so a few weeks into that job, they called out to see if there were any volunteers who would go to Dallas, Texas, because the prime minister was coming to visit. Jean Chrétien, Prime Minister Chrétien at the time, was coming to visit Dallas on his last ever Team Canada mission. He was going to Dallas and then he was going to Los Angeles. And they needed someone to organize the investment roundtable because the person who was in charge of investment in Dallas left suddenly in her posting. So I was like, I'll go. And they're like, who are you? You're an outsider. You don't even know what you're doing. You're new here. How do you think you can do this? And I said, I can get on that plane tomorrow. I don't think anyone else in this room can get on a plane tomorrow, but I'm willing to go and get this done. And I was right. Nobody could get on a plane tomorrow. So they're like, okay, send the new girl. But I tell you this story because this is exactly how I converted my 1 year term into a 2 week assignment, into a permanent posting in Dallas, Texas, a month later, to et cetera, et cetera. It was, I just kept putting my hand up for things that nobody wanted to do, things that I could do. And I started to build a reputation based on impossible things nobody wants to do. Like I had 2 weeks in that instance to put together an investment roundtable for Prime Minister Chrétien and Gary Dewar, Premier of Manitoba, Ralph Klein, Premier of Alberta. And I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody else did either. I started cold calling CEO's office. Hello, Michael Dell. This is Marcy Grossman. I'm calling on behalf of the Prime Minister's office. Could we invite you to lunch next Thursday to meet with the Prime Minister? And so on and so on and so on until I got to 12 and I had an investment roundtable and it was a huge success. And at the end of the investment roundtable, and after the wheels up and everybody left, I went to the Consul General and I said, hey, I hope you think I did a great job. I love it here. I love this type of work. I know you have a vacancy. The investment officer the position is vacant. It's December now. It's summer rotation is not until August. Let me come and fill the job. I can do it. I can come right now. And sure enough, he let me do it. And by February of that year, 3 months later, I had sold all my worldly possessions, moved my husband and my kids to Dallas, Texas, and the rest I say is history. But I did that every single move. I can tell you how I did it every single move.
What was it like working in the UAE and what surprised you about that, very big and very important role?
Yeah, if I can add to that question, because I think what Jen and I really found fascinating is it's one thing to work in a culture that's very much more or less like ours,
Right.
In the US.
Right.
But to Jen's point, you land in another country that's got a very different approach also to women.
Right. Well, just to say that I had more culture shock going to Dallas, Texas than I did to Dubai. And I'm not joking about that. Because I had not anticipated that the American way of life is significantly different than the Canadian way of life. But that being said, is of course going to the UAE was something that was extremely foreign to me. I had some preconceived notions about what it was going to be like. I had traveled a little bit in the Middle East, but I was not prepared for what I was met with. Now, again, the small details, but I actually landed in Dubai. I was the consul general of Dubai for 1 year, and then I got a surprise promotion to Abu Dhabi a year ago. So I got to Dubai, I got off the plane. It's like I was entered outer space. Like, first of all, just to see the type of creativity and development that this country had created out of a pile of sand in such a short period of time was shocking to me. I could not have anticipated a more modern, vibrant, exciting landscape than Dubai. And I'll be honest, when I got off the plane, I was wondering, is someone going to figure out I'm Jewish at some point? Like, I felt very nervous until the moment I presented my credentials that in fact someone would figure out I was Jewish and they would be like, "Oh, wrong job. Sorry. Go right instead of left." And I thought it was a super bold move for Canada to send a Jewish woman to Dubai. And I was super impressed that the UAE, because they don't leave anything to chance, of course they knew I was Jewish, really warmly welcomed me when I got there. So those couple of things really made an impression. And the other issue I would say, and you've already raised it, is the role of women in UAE society. We have these preconceived notion about what a woman in a shayla, with her head covered, what her life is like, what she's capable of doing, what she's allowed to do. And I can tell you 100% this is an absolute misconception. The women of the UAE are like kicking butt and taking names. Like, they are so strongly represented in the government. They are highly overrepresented in post-secondary education. They run space missions. The UAE put a rover on Mars the year that I was in Dubai. The person who ran that mission was a woman. Her team of engineers was predominantly women. So the power that these women have, I could not have anticipated that when I got off the plane. And I felt so like aligned with them. Such as they were like me. They were working moms doing really difficult jobs, and killing it. So I think I was really surprised about that.
Just a final question then, because this has been such a great conversation. But just as we head into the home stretch, you talk about these preconceived notions.
Right.
And, my assumption was
Right.
that the US environment was going to, in fact, be more similar, but your experience wasn't that. What has living in different cultures taught you about preconceived notions, and especially when it comes to women, and what do we need to learn from that?
Right. This came to me late in my career, but I've learned to approach life with great curiosity, to rush to judgment. When we're in conflict with people, we rush to judgment. We think they have intentionally wronged us. But the fact of the matter is it's almost 99% positive intention, negative attribution. If you actually took the time to be curious and asked a person, "Why did you say that? Why did you do that?" you will find out that they did not have any bad intention towards you. So extrapolating out from that is be curious. Be curious about cultures. Be curious about the way people operate in the world. And I feel like that has been just such a gift, and it's opened up so much for me as a leader, and as a person, to just be really curious about people and not rush to judgment, because that's what we do. We are very quick to judge everyone and everything.
Marcy, I find you incredibly refreshing and inspiring that you kicked down the doors that led to your tremendous career path, but at the same time, you're opening doors for so many other people by sharing your story, how your path wasn't linear, how you did have struggles along the way and then continued to, create your own opportunities. And we're just so grateful that you joined us today. And we really appreciate your honesty with us. Thank you.
Remember, I think it's a byproduct of age. As you get to a certain point in your life, you don't really give a darn about what people think or say. And there's such a great freedom that comes with that. And with that freedom comes the ability to be authentic. Like, I can say anything I want. I am not tied to anyone, any job, anything. I am free to just be me. And if you like me, amazing. Let's be friends. And if you don't, that's okay. I am not everyone's cup of tea. That's okay. So there is great freedom in that. And I just want to add one more thing because we haven't really touched on it. And I know that your listenership and your followership is a little bit younger than well, a lot younger than I am, because most people are. But good news, the best is yet to come. I know you can't believe it now. I know you're thinking, I'm like just barely hanging in. I'm not getting better. I'm getting older. No. If you look at the happiness curve, people who are in their 30s to 50s women are miserable. As much as they are getting all the things that they want, like the husband and the job and the kids and the vacations, they are freaking miserable. Once you get to 60, you become the happiest you will ever be in your whole entire life. Because society has unleashed you. You have unleashed yourself. You are free to operate around the world as you want. You take your time. You are friends with who you want. You dedicate your time to what you want. And you get so close to aligning with your truest purpose. It's actually exhilarating. So I'm excited.
That's a fabulous way for us to be able to wrap this conversation, because those are words of wisdom.
They are. And that's what I have now is wisdom. That's what you get when you're old. No, it's true.
You're not old.
I have, but
you're awesome. You're awesome and wise.
Thank you. But it's true. And I will keep talking if it inspires one person, because I did not have a lot of role models coming up through my career, because we were crashing through the ceiling, but together as a group, but we didn't have people to look up to, because there were no women in the senior leadership roles. And I think that's one of the number one deterrents for women, is if they can't see themselves in those roles, they don't aspire to them. So yeah, it's great.
Well, and there you've just gone ahead and created the change that others wanted to see. So we're really grateful to you, Marcy. Thank you. Thanks for being a part of this.
Thank you so much. It's been my absolute honor.
Well, that's a wrap. And to our listeners across Canada and around the world, we thank you for joining us.
You can hear The Honest Talk on iTunes, Spotify, and Simplecast, brought to you by RBC. You can also get more information on stories that matter to you at our website, thehonesttalk.ca, and sign up for our weekly newsletter, where you'll get fabulous stories delivered right to your inbox.
But for now, thank you for being a part of today's podcast. Stay tuned for more great conversations, and stay well.